evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The state's Financial and Administrative Audit Institution sends copies of its annual report to the Council of Ministers and the State and Shura Councils. Yemen's government reverses a decision to expel a UN human rights envoy. Hundreds of South Korean war veterans protest in Seoul against North Korea's nuclear test. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The state's Financial and Administrative Audit Institution has sent copies of its annual report, previously sent to His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, on the results of its works for 2014 to the State and Shura Councils and the Council of Ministers. This came in implementation of the provision of Article 58, repeated, and Article 42 of the state's basic law issued by the Royal Decree number 99/2011 and Article 29 of State's Financial and Administrative Audit Law issued by Royal Decree number 111/2011. The annual report for 2014 included the inspection results of the state's administrative apparatus in terms of revenues, of the General Treasury, general expenditure, internal auditing systems, the balance sheet and the state's financial status. The report also included the inspection results of some investments, public companies, authorities and establishments, subject to the auditing of the institution, in addition to the execution of several administrative auditing missions and performances assessments of bodies subject to the institution's auditing. The report also included the checking results of complaints and notices received by the communication department through various communication means and awareness programs conducted by the institutions on its role in public fund protection. Yemen's government has reversed a decision to expel a UN human rights envoy after an appeal from UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. The Foreign Ministry had declared the representative of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, George Abu al-Zuluf, persona non grata on Thursday over what it called unfair statements. A senior Yemen official said the government has reversed this decision to declare the representative a persona non grata in response to the request of the UN Secretary General. He gave no further details and there was no immediate announcement by President Abdurabu Mansur Hadi's government or by the United Nations. Israeli troops shot dead two Palestinian men at a checkpoint in the occupied West Bank today, the Israeli military and Palestinians said, but details of the incident were disputed. The Israeli military said the men tried to stop soldiers at the checkpoint, but a Palestinian taxi driver who asked not to be identified said the men did not get out of their vehicle before the soldiers opened fire. Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi said today that more than 60% of sorties against the Daesh group in Iraq are carried out by the nation's Air Force and about 40% by the US-led coalition. Abadi said Iraq still needed foreign assistance for air cover, training and armament, but not for ground operations. Abadi renewed his call for Turkey to withdraw troops deployed in the region of Mosul, the largest city in northern Iraq, which has been under the Daesh group's control since 2014. Turkey deployed around 150 troops last month at the Bashika base, where it is training an Iraqi militia to fight the militants, citing heightened security risks. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said Turkish troops repelled Islamic State attack on the base, killing 18 militants, adding that this incident vindicated the presence of the protection force. Hundreds of South Korean war veterans protested in Seoul today against North Korea's nuclear test. Tensions are high on Korean peninsula as Seoul decided to resume its propaganda broadcasts against Pyongyang. Yesterday, after North Korea this week announced that it had successfully tested a hydrogen nuclear device. About 300 protesters, mostly war veterans, gathered in central Seoul, holding up banners urging tougher sanctions against North Korea. The protesters urged South Korean government to fully prepare for further North Korean provocations. They also said developing nuclear program is the way the country can counter the rival North Korea. North Korea's fourth nuclear test angered both the United States and China, which was not given prior notice, although the US government and weapons experts doubt the North's claim that the device it set off was a hydrogen bomb. An Egyptian Interior Ministry statement said that 2 people were shot on their way to work today in the Giza district. Police have been deployed to the scene to investigate the shooting and search for suspects. Egypt has for years been battling a Sinai-based insurgency, which has grown in strength since 2013. Yesterday, 2 knife-wielding militants attacked European tourists at a hotel in the Red Sea resort of Hurghada, wounding 2 Austrians and a Swede. Security forces shot the 2 attackers, killing 1 and wounding the other. Hungary's Prime Minister says that the flow of migrants entering the European Union must be fully stopped, not just slowed. Viktor Orban said that ending the migrant flow would be the decisive issue of 2016 and called for the construction of a European defense line on Greece's northern borders with Macedonia and Bulgaria. More than 390,000 migrants passed through Hungary in 2015 on their way to Germany and other Western European Union destinations. UN officials said today that at least 10 people have died and over 1,000 fallen sick with cholera in an outbreak among Somali refugees in the world's largest refugee camp in Kenya. Osman Yusuf Ahmed from the UN refugee agency UNHCR said the outbreak began in November in the Dadaab camp complex in northeastern Kenya, home to some 350,000 Somali refugees. Ahmed said the most important thing is hygiene, describing how aid workers were spraying chlorine across the camp and distributing soap. He said they are not leaving anything to chance. Cholera is transmitted through contaminated drinking water and causes acute diarrhea, and the outbreak has been exacerbated by weeks of heavy rains in Kenya. Still to come in our news bulletin, the activities of Youth Creativity Program concluded in the Wilaya of Saham. The Sultanate marked the Omani Environment Day to be held this year under the theme Our Environment, Our Country, so preserve it, under the auspices of His Highness Said Dr. Fahad bin Al-Julanda, Assistant Secretary General for Innovation Development at the Research Council. The celebration held at Oman Avenue Mall in the Governorate of Muscat in the presence of His Excellency Mohammed bin Salim Al Tobi, Minister of Environment and Climate Affairs. The celebration of the Sultanate came in response to the royal directives of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos to show more interest in the environment. The Sultanate marked the first Omani Environment Day on January the 8th, 1997. The Sultanate's celebration also complemented the efforts made to preserve the natural wealth and maintain environmental resources. The Ministry of Environment and Climate Affairs was making endeavors to raise public awareness and involve all sectors of society in environment preservation. The activities of the program entitled Youth Creativity concluded in the Wilaya of Saham in the Governorate of North Batina. The conclusion ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Mohammed bin Nasser Al Zabi, Chairman of the Public Authority for Civil Aviation, and the program aimed to raise competitiveness among youth in all fields. It also sought to harness their creative capabilities in a positive way as to benefit their society. An exhibition was held on the sideline of the event. The activities also included poetry, theatrical shows, sports and cultural activities. Now for the general weather forecast. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with low clouds and fog over southeastern coast and on the governorates of South Sharqiya. Winds will be north to northwesterly light to moderate, occasionally active. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The state's Financial and Administrative Audit Institution sends copies of its annual report to the Council of Ministers and the State and Shura Councils. Yemen's government reverses a decision to expel a UN human rights envoy. Hundreds of South Korean war veterans protest Seoul against North Korea's nuclear test. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.